The state calls Dr. Chris Franciscus.
The witness has been sworn. You may be seated.
Dr. Franciscus, could you please state your name and occupation for the record, please?
Yes, my name is Dr. Chris Cole Wayne Franciscus. I am a certified forensic clinical psychologist. I currently employed at Franciscus & Associates.
Dr. Franciscus, how long have you been a clinical psychologist?
I've been a clinical psychologist since I received my PhD in 1997, 18 years.
And what do your duties entail as a clinical psychologist?
I apply clinical psychology in the legal arena. Specifically, I assess individuals involved in the legal system, including evaluating individuals charged with criminal violations, to assess their mental state either when a crime was committed, or prior to proceeding to trial. I also evaluate individuals to make recommendations about treatment, sentencing, and assessment of future risk.
Dr. Franciscus, you stated you are currently employed at Franciscus & Associates. How long have you been so employed?
It was 2 years in September, and 2 months.
And what is your prior work experience in the area of clinical forensic psychology?
Prior to that, I worked for 16 years at State Hospital, as a staff psychologist there.
What did your duties entail as staff psychologist at State Hospital?
I evaluated and treated patients with mental diseases and defects, who were committed either pre-trial due to a finding of incompetency to proceed, or post-trial commitments, as a result of a verdict of not guilty and not guilty by reason of insanity.
Dr. Franciscus, could you tell the court the education you received to become a clinical forensic psychologist?
I earned my BA degree from State University at the Southwest Campus in 1991. I earned my master's degree from State University in 1993, and I earned my PhD from State University in 1997 with honors.
Do you hold any other licenses or certifications?
In addition to Louisiana, I'm also a licensed clinical psychologist in Texas and Georgia. I hold all necessary certifications and licenses in all 3 states.
And Dr. Franciscus, is there any other training you've received in the field of clinical forensic psychology?
Well, for the last 18 years, I have received 15 hours of continuing medical education a year, in my field, as required for my licensing, which keeps me up to date in the field.
Do you have any publications in the field of clinical forensic psychology?
Oh yes. My dissertation was on the prevalence of abusive backgrounds on death row. I also published I Can't Help Myself, in American Psychology Journal, in '09. I published Wine and Murder, in the Forensic Psychology Journal in '12. And The Chronic Murderer was also published in the Forensic Psychology Journal very recently in 2014.
Are you a member of any professional organizations?
I'm an active member of the American Psychology Association, the National Psychology Association, and the Mental Health National Society.
Do you stay abreast of updates or changes in the field of clinical forensic psychology?
Absolutely.
How so?
As I said, through the CMEs I'm required to attend each year. Additionally, I attend seminars put on by the organizations I'm a member of and I read their publications and journals.
Dr. Franciscus, have you ever testified as an expert witness in a court proceeding in the field of clinical forensic psychology?
Hundreds of times. Too many to count.
In which courts?
Both state and federal courts in Louisiana, Texas, and Georgia.
Have there been any occasions when you were not accepted as tendered?
Absolutely not.
At this time, Your Honor, I will tender the witness as an expert in the field of clinical forensic psychology, qualified by his experience and training to testify in the field, and I will tender the witness to opposing counsel for voir dire on his qualifications to testify as an expert in the field of clinical forensic psychology.
Your witness, counsel.
Just a few questions, Dr. Franciscus. Prior to starting a private practice 2 years ago, your entire career was spent working at the same place, right?
Yes, I worked for University Hospital for 16 years after I received my PhD.
So the scope of your experience is very narrow, right?
It's relatively narrow, but it's in my area of expertise, and what I'm here to talk about today, forensic clinical psychology.
In your 18 years of practice, you've only published 3 articles.
That's right.
And you have never taught any classes. or lectured in the field of clinical forensic psychology?
Note, I've never taught classes. I've been a practitioner for the last 18 years.
Thank you. Your Honor, at this time I would object to Dr. Franciscus testifying as an expert in clinical forensic psychology. He's had a very limited amount of experience, a handful of publications and over 18 years in his profession. He's never taught in the field. This witness doesn't possess the necessary experience and knowledge to give expert opinions.
Your Honor, Dr. Franciscus has worked 18 years in the field of clinical forensic psychology, the exact field in which he is being tendered. He's published in this field. He holds memberships in leading national organizations where he attends seminars, reads journals and other publications, and has had 15 additional hours of training in his field for the last 18 years. Not to mention he's testified hundreds of times as an expert in courts in 3 states. He is clearly qualified to give expert opinions in this field.
I object, Your Honor.
So noted. The witness is accepted as an expert in clinical forensic psychology.
All right, Dr. Franciscus, let's talk about the case that has brought us here today. In the course of your employment, have you come to evaluate the defendant in this case, Cornelius Grant?
Yes, I have.
Specifically, what were you asked to do?
I was asked to evaluate Mr. Grant, along with any other supporting documents, records, and any other relevant information to determine whether at the time Mr. Grant killed the victim in this case, there was any mental disease or defect that prevented him from distinguishing between right and wrong, with respect to his conduct.
And were you able to develop such an opinion?
Yes, I was.
Before we get to the substance of that opinion, let's talk about the information upon which your opinion is based. Dr. Franciscus, upon developing your opinions in this case, did you have the